His was merely a passive role until the morning I took the lid from the Coke bucket. Then his expertise came into play. I picked out the Coke with a pair of tongs, and it was his job to sniff at each and every lump before I placed it in the position on the fire. A sort of quality control, if you like. He had yet to reject a lump, but it was best to be on the safe side. When that was done, I was allowed to have 5 minutes with the paper. I was allowed to have 5 minutes with the paper whilst Thermal sat on the dining room table and made faces at people passing by. I suppose it's more or less what everyone does with their cat in the morning. To Nick, this domestic scene of a man and his cat as one, in perfect harmony, was something new, something he had never experienced. He was puzzled. When I pulled out the middle pages of the paper and laid them beside me on the floor, he picked them up and handed them back to me. "No, it's all right," I told him. "Thermal likes to sit on the paper when he's finished pulling faces at people. If I don't do that, he sits on the bit I'm reading. Why don't you just clip him round the earlobe and tell him not to?" But that was just the point. I'm bigger than Thermal, and if I wanted to, I could beat the living daylights out of him. But then if I did, would he sit on my chest all the way through Coronation Street, with a paw on each side of my neck, and his head tucked under my chin? Would he take just one bite of every meal I put down for him, and then come looking for me to tell me that this was the best bit of fish he'd had in months, before he went back to finishing it off? Would he sit on my desk all afternoon, sunning himself under the angel poise lamp, whatever that says, so that I could lean my notes up against him? No, of course he wouldn't. But Nick didn't seem to understand, and I was disappointed, because you want those you love to love one another. I spent the rest of the day working at my desk while Nick slept off his jet lag on my settee, or a couch, or a sofa, wherever you live. Thermal sat to attention on the sideboard to make sure I didn't run off with the silver. An hour later, I took a break and popped in to see if all was well, and found that the kitten had taken his courage in both paws and was sitting in the armchair from where he could keep an eye on the cushions as well. I made a cup of tea for Aileen and myself around 6 o'clock. Sorry about that. I made a cup of tea for Aileen and myself around 6 o'clock, and on my way back to the office, went to see if Nick was awake. He was still flat on his back and out to the wide. His chest was rising and falling with each gentle fluted snore, and on his stomach was a small white kitten riding it like a server rides a wave. A server? A surfer rides a wave, not a server. His concentration was absolute, but he looked up when he heard me come in. He's not much fun, is he? I watched Coronation Street with Aileen. She didn't sit with her paws either side of my neck, or tuck her head under my chin. But apart from that, she was quite good company. Then I poured some wine and took the joint out of the oven. Joint as in food, not smoking joint. What even was that? Alright, now I'm just being awkward. Sorry. Aileen drank my wine, apologised, and then drank her own. Better wake Nick. I pushed the door open slowly, so that I could bring him round in stages, but he was already awake and sitting by the hearth with thermal. They were trying to save the fire from extinction, and Nick was plucking lumps of coke from the bucket with the tongs. He held out each and every lump so that Thermal could have a good sniff before he placed them in position on the grate. With Nick's enthusiasm? I never know how to say that word properly. And Thermal's experience, they made quite a good job of it. And then my son unfolded the Independent on the carpet and began to read the television listings. Thermal frowned, shifting impatiently, and cleared his throat. Nick looked up. "I'm sorry, I didn't think." He patted the little kitten on the head, plucking out the middle pages and spread them down by his side. "There you are, old son. Park your bum on that." That night we opened a bottle and talked into the early hours. It was well past Thermal's bedtime, and he slept on Aileen's chest, which he had discovered, unlike Nick's chest or mine, he had a special inbuilt design feature that prevented him from sliding down. He woke up as we were nodding off and looked longingly into the nearest plant pot. "Oh, no you don't." I picked him up and carried him down to the rhubarb patch. The cold air didn't seem to hit him until I reached the bottom step. There was a coating of white frost on the courtyard, and I apologised as I put him down under a leaf. "Sorry about this." "I should think so." He gave me one of his looks, and so I left him to it, and spent the next minute or so persuading an enormous black tomcat that this wasn't a public right-of-way. Thermal must have finished by now. "You should have seen that one, Thermal. He'd have made 10 of you." That was no answer. "It's all right, he's gone now." I couldn't see him anywhere. There was a full moon, and he was a white kitten. He'd almost glowed when I brought him down the steps. "Thermal? Where was he?" He hadn't come past me. I combed the rhubarb patch in the full length of the hedge. There was no sign of him. I remembered the cough. I coughed all my way around the courtyard and back to the gap in the hedge. He must have gone through to Patrick's. He'd been sitting on his bucket. There was no other way he could have gotten out. I'd have to go round through the gate and down the lane and then into Patrick's, hoping he hadn't got it locked from the inside. I fumbled my way across to the gate, and it was a heavy black gate in a shadowy stone wall that was wide open. He never left it open. Must have been the paper boy with the Evening Examiner. "Thermal, come on, Thermal. There's a good boy." It seemed darker out in the lane somehow. The light from the windows didn't reach this far. He could be anywhere, and I had a funny feeling I was never going to see him again. Well, that's the end of chapter 7. And like always, if you'd like me to read anything after this, then feel free to tell me in the comments. I think that's it. I think so. Oh, one more thing. I might start uploading more often as well. That will start like Tuesday or something. Like Tuesday to... No. Should I do a Monday? Monday to Thursday? Yeah, Monday to Thursday. Okay, see you later. Bye bye.